Friends, what's up? It is Doug and welcome to another edition of Spooky Villages. We're going to do a giveaway. I'm going to do it at the end of this video. So I just want to put that up right there, giveaway at the end of this, so I can talk about the subject matter at hand beforehand here. You know guys, last week to be entered in the giveaway to win the Evil Spirits Whiskey Distillery from Lemax Spooky Town, new for 2021. Thank you Lemax, by the way, for giving that building to give away. So thank you Lemax for this. The idea I had was to enter a comment in last week's video. Let me know your favorite soundtrack of all time from any Halloween Village building. And I got, a ton of responses, and I want to thank you all. I have read every single one of them. It's been a lot of fun. So I wanted to talk about some of my favorites here. But real quick, let's talk about some of your favorites. I thought it was really interesting to read that there were certain buildings that kept coming up, and some that were surprising and some not really. So let's talk about it, shall we? Something that came up often was the Graveyard Party. That's it's newer from Lemax Spooky Town. It actually debuted, I think, 2 years ago. Last year, though, it was at Michael's. It's a newer building. It's really, really popular, and it's been really, really popular for really the last couple of years. A lot going on that one. Of course, I have a review of that building, and I thought that was that one was not surprising because it has a very whimsical, like Disney's haunted mansion kind of vibe to it, and a lot of animation, everything. Cool piece. The soundtrack is really, really good on that one, and so not a surprise there. That one came up a bunch. Another one that was very, very popular was the Tilt and Hurl. Actually, that one does have a pretty good soundtrack. I guess that surprised me just because, it is newer, but it does have a good soundtrack. I don't know. I guess I just didn't think of that really whenever I was putting this video, when I put it out to you guys. But a lot of the buildings are newer, and I think that's interesting because it shows a lot of the commenters, for the most part, do seem to be newer. A lot of the people that get into the hobby, they get really enthused, and the last couple of years, some of the buildings that that were on there. So we had that one, we had, which was a pumpkin tilt and hurl. We had the Graveyard Party. Another one that was popular, and I totally get this one. It was a Symphony of Screams from a couple of years ago. That one, a soundtrack was, I would think absolutely integral to the building. So many buildings you could run without sound, and let's be honest here, most of us do run them without sound, especially if you have a bunch of them going to be a cacophony of really madness if you tried to run them over each other. Don't believe me? What happens when Michael's, I know some of you guys have seen when the Michael's displays, when they have a bunch of the buildings powered up with sound, and it gets crazy, and that's what it can be. But the Symphony of Screams really does need the sound, I think. I'd actually argue that's one of the most important soundtracks on any building because, again, it's the symphony. You have the orchestra up there. Fantastic music on that one, but again, another newer piece. So those were the three that really jumped out at me. Of course, Monsters Ball is a classic Lemax piece. And by the way, I'll put links to all of the buildings that I'm talking about here, the soundtracks. I'm going to put them in the description here below. I have most of them except for a couple of the ones that I'm going to talk about here. I don't have the soundtrack for two of them, which is a little embarrassing in the two that I'm going to talk about, but I'll put links to other videos that have them. On this channel, whenever I do the soundtrack portions of the reviews, if the buildings have soundtracks like Lights and Sound, I always do that at the end of the videos. And of course, I always read every comment. I've read every comment. I'm sorry, I'm terrible at getting back with commenting, like return commenting these days. I promise I do read them all. It's just been a crazy time here. But anyways, when you guys talk about them, it's always interesting because a lot of the newer people, it seems like, and this is why I talked about some of the newer, the newer buildings being popular. A lot of the newer folks really like the soundtracks, and they really like when they say the name of the piece, right? A lot of the old time collectors don't like that, and a lot of times leave a lot of negative feedback on that. And listen, I get it. I'm a person who, you'll see in a moment, I actually don't like when the name is said. I like just a soundtrack that sort of just repeats. Really, the less talking, the better for me. But I know a lot of folks do like that, and I think that, and also listening or reading, I should say, to a lot of the comments out there, it's interesting because sometimes that's what grabs you guys. That is what grabs you guys to the Michael's display, right? You guys will have heard something, and you weren't even really interested or even knew what Spooky Town was, but you heard it at Michael's, and that is something important to me. I think that even grabbed me originally to the Spooky Town display because I went to Michael's for something years ago. I had no clue about any of this stuff, and it grabbed me, and I don't remember which piece it was exactly that I heard for the first time, but you know, Michael's, you walk in there and it is different when you hear something kind of screaming at you with the spooky music and everything. It does grab you, and a lot of folks, especially newer folks, they really like that, and it does grab them. So it's important to know, if you don't like that, it does have a place. I think especially like a Michael's store, that really does help separate it when it does have a loud, boisterous soundtrack that says something. You know, I think that's it's interesting to think of that. So one last thing, several people did say Witch's Lair. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring that up. Witch's Lair is an ultra popular piece. Somehow I've never done a review of that. I did have it years ago in a Spooky Town haul that I made before I started this channel. I wound up selling it. I wish I'd done a video of it. Mega popular is that one, Witch's Lair. Very classic from 2004. So several people mentioned that and absolutely love it. So I had to say that. I don't want to make you guys angry, the Witch's Lair folks out there, because that building is a favorite of many. So, all right, guys, let's talk about some of my favorites, okay? All right, so I'll keep this informal. And again, I'll put links below here. I'm not going to do the sound right now. I don't actually have the sound for the 2 Department 56 videos I'm going to talk about here. Buildings I'm going to talk about, but I will put links to others who do have those soundtracks online. Let's start with Department 56. I have 2 buildings for those. The first is the Haunted Barn. I adore this. The Haunted Barn is very, I say understated. It's really not understated, though. I guess that's not a fair way to put it. You hear animals in the barn, very spooky music, creaky. It is awesome. I can actually run that one over a display, and it's a really nice. It's really nice for ambiance. Another one which is in the similar vein is 1031 Trick or Treat Drive. Another absolutely classic Department 56 piece. I love that. That's one of the predecessors to Trick or Treat Lane, by the way. Amazing soundtrack with ambiance. I love that one. That's like the spooky neighborhood come alive. I absolutely love those. So, what would I say for Lemax? To me, there's an obvious one, and whenever I thought of this, you know, one of my favorite Spooky Town soundtracks, there's an obvious one, and then there's a runner-up. I'll start with, I guess, the runner-up. That would be the famous Last House on the Left. Very scary, stormy night vibes that it has, and the music just repeats over and over again. It sounds frantic, it's kind of stressful. I love that. And Last House on the Left is also one of my favorite Lemax pieces of all time. That one is very expensive now. I did a review of that and did have the soundtrack in the review. Again, all the links below here for the buildings I've discussed. I adore that one. That one's amazing. A great house with a fantastic soundtrack. So my favorite Lemax Spooky Town building soundtrack of all time is actually one that really surprised me. Probably is arguably the most surprising building I think that I've done since I started this channel, and how I thought it was a standard kind of lit haunted house, and whenever I bought it, it really surprised me. That would be the Hollow Graves Manor. This was a few years ago when it came out. This soundtrack is legit scary. I think it can be terrifying. Actually, it's unsettling to where it spooks my kids. It, along with the pulsating light, it has a poltergeist vibe to it. It is menacing. It is scary. You don't have the the people talking over it, and that all of mine have that in common. I should say there's no talking. None of them that say like Last House on the Left. There's none of that. I particularly don't care for that kind of thing. I know some of you guys like that. Cool, different strokes, but I like the ones that don't have that because I can actually run it for a little bit. I don't run sound very often, but I will run these 4 buildings I'm talking about. I'll run the sound on those for a little bit. But the Hollow Graves Manor, incredibly atmospheric and scary, like legit scary. I absolutely love it. So those are mine, guys. We had the Department 56, the Haunted Barn. We had also the Department 56, 1031 Trick or Treat Drive. Then we also had the Lemax Last House on the Left and Hollow Graves Manor. Love them all. They're all amazing. But I would say the Haunted Barn is for Department 56, and I would say that the Hollow Graves Manor is my favorite Lemax one. Of course, there's a million that I do like. There's so many of these, but those are the ones that really just jumped out at me. So it was awesome reading your comments. And you know what? Let's pick a winner, shall we? All right, the winner of the Evil Spirits Whiskey Distillery. Again, thank you, Lemax, for providing this building for the giveaway. How I did this, I entered everybody who had this in by Thursday at midnight, and I entered everybody in, put it in a random generator, and that's how I pulled this name. So, Ashley Leary, you are the winner of this. Please, I'll spell it out below here in the comments, and I'll pin the comment, and you can email me at spookyvillages@gmail.com or on the Spooky Villages Facebook page or Instagram. Just get a hold of me. I will send this bad boy to you, the Evil Spirits Whiskey Distillery. Again, Ashley Leary, you are the winner of this building. Thank you very much. So, hey guys, before I go here, I just wanted to thank you all. Again, thanks Lemax for this, but thank you all for the comments. You really should read those comments if you haven't on the last video, for the contest entering about the soundtracks, because so many people left so many nice, heartfelt comments, really interesting, great feedback on the soundtracks that they like and why they like them. And it's I love how so many of them are tied to a memory, and that's the important thing, I think, with the Halloween villaging hobby. So many of us love the things, the buildings that tie to a certain memory. It could be either a memory that the real building, not the real building, you know what I mean, that the building evokes, like for me, Trick or Treat Lane. I love that. It makes me think of trick-or-treating as a kid, and the 1031 Trick or Treat Drive, that's what does that for me too. It kind of brings that up. Or some of you really liked it because it was maybe the first piece you bought and that soundtrack grabbed you, like you saw it at a Michael's or heard it at a Michael's and saw the building. I love reading that. It's really interesting, and it's important that these buildings do have soundtracks. I think that a lot of them do, at least, even if we don't run them all the time. It's cool when they do have it, and it makes for a good story. And sometimes they're great, sometimes they're not great. We all have opinions on it, but it's always fun to hear from other collectors and hobbyists what they like. So, hey, thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.